Go ahead, Jeannie.
Good evening and welcome to East China School District's Board of Education meeting on Monday, October 26th. We'll begin our meeting with a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. If everyone would please stand. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, the next item on this evening's agenda is items of interest, recognition, and inquiry. Board of Education members, does anybody have anything this evening? Nobody?
Go vote on Tuesday.
There you go, somebody. Okay, great. Mrs. Fibula.
Thank you, President Frank. I just wanted to acknowledge some very hardworking individuals in our district. October is National Principals Month, and I would like to take this opportunity to publicly acknowledge the hard work and dedication of our ECSD building leaders. This year in particular, but every year, they put in so much effort behind the scenes to make things run smoothly. Their leadership is very much appreciated by me and by the communities that they serve. In no particular order, because they are all outstanding leaders, I would like to recognize Ronald Miller, principal of St. Clair High School, Sandy Rutledge, assistant principal and AD of St. Clair High School, Jason Steyer, principal of Riverview East High School, Sherry Becker, principal of Marine City High School and Marine City Middle School, Dave Maru, assistant principal and AD of Marine City High School and Marine City Middle School, Mike Demagowski, principal of St. Clair Middle School, Brad Robbins, assistant principal and AD of St. Clair Middle School, Rachel Card, principal of Pine River Elementary, Phil Russell, principal of Gearing Elementary, Scott Westerhoff, principal of Palms Elementary, Lindsay Grange, who is the ECSD Director of Special Education and also assists at Palms Elementary. And finally, Robin Smith-Herr, principal of Bell River Elementary. Thank you to all of our principals in making it look easy when I know that it's not. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, the board also thanks all of our outstanding principals. The next item on our agenda this evening is our special recognition, the East China Educational Foundation grants with Mr. Michael Demagowski.
Well, thank you, President Frank and Superintendent Cybula and the rest of the board and everyone else watching. I'm Mike Demagowski. I have the privilege and honor to chair the East China Educational Foundation here in our area. It's a wonderful foundation, and I'm honored to present our grant award recipients for the fall of 2020 tonight. A little bit about the foundation. It's an endowment fund through the Community Foundation of St. Clair County. With the fall 2020 awards, over $173,000 has been given out in grants by the foundation. So we're very, very proud of that. The 2020 Fall Grant Award recipients. Tonight, you're going to hear 12 grants ranging from $246 to $750, and they're being awarded, like I said, tonight, for a total of just over $5,000. So without further ado, first up, we have Amy Lawson from Gearing Elementary School. Amy will be purchasing the Total Teddy package, which is a multi-sensory package to help teach young children placement, manner, and voicing of sounds. We have Kelly Woodhouse of Palms Elementary School. Kelly will be purchasing the Real Projects Workshop, mailbox, playphone, house cleaning set, vet set, and career costume set. And I believe that's for young fives. We have Twyla Waite from Riverview East High School. Twyla will be purchasing a digital SLR camera for use on the school yearbook. Nicole Denny of Bell River Elementary School. Nicole will be purchasing STEM-related activities, exploring concepts such as gravity, geology, circuits, structures, energy, magnetism, and electricity. Michelle Kennedy from Marine City High School will be purchasing one adult rescue mannequin for lifeguard rescue practice. Jessica Simons from St. Clair High School will be purchasing yearly subscriptions to Kahoot, Quizzes, and Pear Deck. Lisa Kane, Pine River and Gearing. Lisa will be receiving 2 grants to continue the Links program at Pine River and Gearing Elementary Schools. Kelly Robbins will be here at St. Clair Middle School. Mrs. Robbins will be increasing and improving the use of technology in the elementary classroom. Green screens, presentation boards, and more will be purchased for the process of making a video or pictures with a green screen. Kathy Wojnowski of St. Clair High School will be purchasing a Nearpod license with her grant. Stacy Schweihofer of Bell River Elementary School, very similar to Mrs. Robbins' award, she'll be purchasing a recording green screen, presentation boards, and additional materials with K-5 students, allowing them to use technology that is changing the way movies and pictures are created and edited. It's for a new elementary technology class. Lori Hannon at St. Clair Middle School will be purchasing clay for both in-person and virtual students, giving them an opportunity to create a sculpture based on their personal experience, imagination, observation, and/or nature. So that's what we have for tonight. Congratulations to all of our 2020 fall grant recipients. Once again, anyone that is watching this can make a check payable to the Community Foundation of St. Clair County within the memo East China Educational Foundation. That would be great. You can send your checks right to the East China School District, Attention Superintendent's Office, and the address is right there on your screen. And I believe that is all I have for tonight. So congratulations to all the recipients.
Yeah, congratulations, everybody. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is our academic spotlight. Riverview East High School. Jason Steyer, principal, is here to present. Jason?
Yeah, good evening, Superintendent Zybula, members of the board, and the rest of our East China community. I really don't need to remind anyone that this year has been challenging. Our teachers are exhausted, our students and families have been stretched to their limits. So we felt it was really important to kind of take some time and pause and really focus on what we believe is the core of our program, which is human connection, which has been really difficult to accomplish with virtual learners and social distancing and mask wearing. So we took a couple of days earlier this month, and we launched what is going to be a longer lasting public art initiative based around diversity and unity. So we partnered with the St. Clair Art Association Public Art Committee, the City of St. Clair, and the Diversity Initiative of St. Clair County. And we took a couple of days to get away from the classroom and open up an opportunity for both our in-person and virtual learners to come together with their families and a number of local businesses and civic organizations. And we created a large-scale street mural at Gregg Park in St. Clair. Craig's going to share a video with you so you can see what that experience looked like. And really all about that opportunity to make those human connections through art and diversity.
Okay, hold on just a second.
Great thing. While things might not look quite the same at Riverview East High School this year, one thing holds true. We continue to make great efforts in enabling our students to understand the world around them and talents within them so that they can become fulfilled individuals and active, compassionate citizens. Already this year, we have partnered with the City of St. Clair Art Association Public Art Committee, and the Diversity Initiative of St. Clair County. Over the course of 2 days in early October, Riverview East High School staff, students, and community volunteers collaborated in creating a resounding image centered around art and diversity. utilizing an existing painted bike path at Gregg Park on Kearney Drive in St. Clair. Artists of all ages contributed to the creation of a resounding image and message of diversity and togetherness. Incorporating the diversity initiative's hashtag SCC Better Together, our community came together and transformed the perimeter of this public space while uniting for a common good. The mural was designed in a way that respected social distancing guidelines, placing each group of artists 6 feet apart and spanned more than 200 feet. This public art effort brought together both in-person and virtual learners, families, and civic groups from throughout our region. The project and its unifying message was shared through a variety of social media outlets, as well as local newspaper and television programming. And the feedback that has been received by onlookers and passers-by has been filled with excitement and gratitude. The true beauty of the project could be found in the abundant smiles, laughter, creativity, and company that participants experienced. During these uncertain times, shrouded with mask-wearing mandates, social distancing, sickness, grief, and division, this community collaboration served as a breath of fresh air that drew focus to our invaluable outdoor spaces, the importance of human connection, and the potential of what we can do when we come together. The arts and community will continue to be a powerful focus as the staff and students at Riverview East High School continue to find ways to accomplish our mission in providing meaningful and engaging opportunities for our students to learn, grow, and make an impact on the ever-changing world in which they live. Here at Riverview East High School, we realize that learning does not only take place in the classroom, it happens everywhere. And we realize that learning does not happen alone. As with most things in life, Riverview East High School is better together.
Wow.
What a great project.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's really,
And an
really
excellent presentation also.
Thank you, and truly, it was a breath of fresh air. There are students who we've worried about since the beginning of the school year who we've lost that connection with, and just offering those couple of days in a different setting, outdoors where we were safe, we were able to connect with those students and at least know that they were okay. They were able to contribute to something meaningful, and again, we were able to just take one more approach to making those human connections and maintaining those relationships as challenging as it's been this school year.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's amazing.
Did somebody else have a comment? Okay, thank you so much. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. A motion is needed for the approval of minutes from the September 28th regular meeting, the approval of the payment of bills, the financial statement, and the schedule of investments.
So moved.
Support.
Any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion carries. The next item on our agenda is recognitions of persons wishing to address the board. I'll just take a real quick moment here to remind everyone that this portion of the agenda is for citizens to address any questions or comments to the board. The board will listen, take your comments and questions under advisement, but we are unable to respond at this time. So this evening, it looks like I actually have two. Let's see. The first one I have is Amy Stablin, and Amy, please press *6 on your phone to unmute. State your name. Obviously, we know your name now, your address, and please try to keep your comments to 5 minutes.
Okay. Good evening.
Hi.
Okay, just making sure you can hear me.
Yep, we can hear you. Thank you.
I'm addressing the board tonight on behalf of my daughter Jenna, who attends St. Clair High School. We are requesting that she be allowed to return to school. I have followed the chain of command in this request and have shared correspondence with Ms. Higgins and Mr. Walling. With each correspondence, I was told that it is the district's policy that once a student chooses virtual education, they must remain a virtual student for the entire first semester. I am taking issue with this policy for several reasons. Number one, in August, when this decision was made, my daughter was on the volleyball team. One of the players on the team contracted COVID in the same time period that my daughter played with her in practice. Neither the district nor the coach ever informed parents of this situation. This complete and utter lack of transparency on the district's part prompted our decision to choose virtual education for our daughter. In light of the health department's mandate that the districts must now inform parents of COVID cases, it has remedied this concern in regards to our decision to choose virtual education. Number two, in the virtual learning option language provided by the district, it states that this option relies on parent assistance. My work conditions are changing and I will no longer be home during the day to assist my daughter. It also states students can expect the same high-level instructions that our traditional and in-person schools provide. My daughter came to me and asked if she could go back to school. When I asked her why, her response was, "I'm not learning anything." The district is not holding up their end of the deal on this point. I would like to be clear that this is not the fault of the teachers, who have been putting in a tremendous amount of work and showing exemplary professionalism. In addition, I do not fault the district that Jenna's grades have dropped and she's suffering academically. Despite the teacher and the district's best efforts and determination, the academic standard is just not up to par. I would like the district to acknowledge that these are unprecedented times, and some flexibility is in order. If you expect parents to have grace and understanding that standards and expectations are different and that we are in pandemic learning, then the district also needs to have that understanding and allow for some warranted changes in that policy. I'm formally asking for action on this request that my daughter be reinstated as soon as possible. Thank you for listening and for taking the time.
Well, thank you for calling in, Amy. Okay, we have another individual, Justine Daring. Are you on? If you are, please press *6 on your phone to unmute.
I don't see her on here.
Okay.
Yeah. She signed up just about a minute and a half before the board meeting started. I sent her the info. So if you're listening, Justine, check your email, your spam, and your junk mail folders. Is it just...
Okay, so I guess then we'll just have to move on.
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, the next item on our agenda is our information discussion section, and this evening, Mrs. Tybula will be going over our extended continuity of learning update.
Good evening. Thank you, President Frank and members of the board. As required, I am providing the update that will be provided at each board meeting moving forward on our extended continuity of learning plan. So, Mr. Headley, if you'd like to, we'll jump right to slide number 2. There you go. Thank you. So currently, we are still, according to the MySafe phase pandemic recovery in phase 4. And East China School District is providing 2 modes of instruction, face-to-face 100% or 100% virtual option. The key health metrics that we're required to provide are given to us by the St. Clair County Health Department. They update us weekly with the information, and as county superintendents, we also meet weekly. Currently, as of 8:30 last Friday, 10/23, the percentage of positive COVID tests in St. Clair County is at 3.8%. And the average number of new cases per day in St. Clair County is 23.9. Craig, if you'd like to move, thank you. The other requirement within this monthly update, is that I provide to you the weekly 2-way interaction rates. And off to the side there gives a quick definition of what we're referring to when we talk about the 2-way interaction. That is the interaction between student and teacher or district employee that is relevant in the course content or progress in the course for the student. It is also the attendance in a face-to-face learning environment, which fulfills that 2-way interaction requirement. Following this board meeting tomorrow, these rates, along with the 2 other slides in the monthly update, will be posted on the district website. So as you can see, week 1 for 9/28, we had a percentage of 2-way interaction at 96. Week 2, starting on October 5th, we had a percentage of 97.2. Week 3 on October 12th, starting, was 97.25. And week 4 was 97.6. So these rates are calculated as an average from the daily percent attendance report that is pulled from our student information system of Skyward. Craig, the next slide, thank you. So based upon the current metric, which is our attendance percentage rates, which are high, 96 to 97.6 on the weekly average, and the fact that there is no evidence of transmission of COVID-19 in any of our school buildings, the current modes of instruction will continue for East China School District, the virtual and in-person, for the next 30 days. So with that information, are there any questions that I can answer?
Nobody has any questions? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Mrs. Saibula.
You're welcome.
The next item on our agenda is our 2019-2020 audit. Mr. Curtis McBride is here to present that this evening.
Well,
There he is.
next.
Hi. Good evening, President Frank, school board members, Superintendent Saibula. It's great to see everyone, even if it's virtual. My name is Curtis McBride, and I'm a CPA for McBride Manley & Company. We are the firm that audits East China School District's financial statements. And I'm here this evening to present the results of our June 30, 2020 audit. Now, before I get into the slides, I want to actually talk about our financial statements first. So the most important thing about the financial statements is the auditor's opinion. So there are 3 types of opinions you can receive from your auditor. There's what we call a clean or unmodified audit opinion, which means we believe the financial statements are reliable and they're in compliance with our professional standards. Then there's what we call a modified opinion, which means that for the most part, we think they are in compliance, but there may be a few exceptions to that. And then the third type of opinion is an adverse audit opinion. And that means we do not believe the financial statements are reliable and they're not in compliance with our standards. So I am pleased to announce that for June 30, 2020, the district received a clean or unmodified audit opinion from our firm. Now, that's the highest opinion you can receive from your auditor. And I just want to clarify, that's just simply an opinion on the reliability of your financial statements. The purpose of our audit is not to provide an opinion on the financial health of our district, of your district. So Now moving on to the slides. On the next slide, the first fund I want to discuss is the general fund. Now, the general fund primarily derives its revenues from property taxes, state aid, and federal, state, and local grants. In this slide, we're looking at the balance sheet for the general fund. So you can see the general fund finished the year with about $9,530,000 of assets on hand. It had liabilities against those assets of about $5,142,000 and finished the year with an ending fund balance level of about $4,388,000. Now, in the next slide, we're looking at the general fund statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. So this is the income statement for the general fund for the year. You can see the general fund generated about $40,918,000 of revenues during the year. It spent about $40,539,000 during the year. So you actually had a net increase to your general fund balance level of about $379,000 for 2020. And as I mentioned in my previous slide, you finished the year with an ending fund balance level of about $4,388,000. Now, in one of my subsequent slides that we're going to talk about in a little bit, I'll go over the fund balance level in a little bit more detail. On the next slide, here we're looking at general fund revenues by source, and we're comparing 2019 to 2020. You can see in 2020, the general fund generated about $41,463,000 in revenues. And that number came down to about $40,918,000 for 2020. So it's about a 1.31% decrease from 2019. And that's primarily due to the way school districts are funded in Michigan, which is based on student count. So, you are funded based on how many students you have in the district, and you had 119 less students in the district in 2020 than you had in 2019. So you can see property taxes made up about $15,196,000, or about 37% of your total revenues. You can see the other major category would be distributions from the state of Michigan. That's primarily your state aid, and that was about $22,786,000 during 2020. Now, on the next slide, here we're looking at general fund expenditures by function. Again, comparing 2019 to 2020. Now, these function categories actually come from Michigan Department of Education. In other words, the district does not have any discretion on the names of these functions. So you can see, again, comparing 2019 to 2020, you spent $41,167,000 in 2019, and you spent about $40,539,000 in 2020. And that's because, as I mentioned in my previous slide, you did anticipate having a loss of students and therefore less funding. So therefore you did budget accordingly to account for that loss in revenues. In looking at the major functions, you can see basic programs is the largest function. Now, basic programs are all the major expenditures for the schools themselves. So this would be the salaries, benefits, the operating supplies for the elementary schools, the middle schools, and the high schools. So it would make sense that basic programs would be the largest function for the district. So you spent about $22,344,000 for basic programs. That makes up about 55% of your budget. Another major function would be added needs. That's primarily the special education program. You spent about $4,663,000 for added needs, or roughly 12% of your budget. Another major function would be operations and maintenance. That's pretty self-explanatory. You spent about $2,982,000 for that during the year, or roughly 7 or 8% of your annual budget. Now, on the next slide, we're getting into some historical revenue and expenditure trend analysis. Here we're going back to 2012. So if you look at revenues on the left, you actually generated about $41,826,000 of revenues for the year ended 2012, and that number has come down to about $40,918,000 for 2020. So that's about a loss of about $908,000 when you compare 2012 to 2020. And that's because you actually had 775 less students in 2020 than you did back in 2012. Now, if we take this back even further to 2008, your two major revenue sources, property taxes and state aid, you generated about $43.2 million in that year. And then for 2020, you generated about $38 million. So from 2008 to 2020, you had about a $5.2 million loss in your major revenue sources. And that's because in the 2008 school year, you had 5,363 students, and for 1920 you had 3,974 students. So that's a loss of 1,389 students from 2008 to 2020. And as I mentioned, the way school districts are funded in Michigan through the state aid allowance, the way that works is the district actually receives a set amount per student every year. And the bottom line is the combination of property taxes and state aid will never exceed that amount in a school year. So if you happen to generate more in property taxes during the year, the state of Michigan will actually reduce your state aid and make sure that you do not exceed your preset allotted foundation allowance per student every year. And for the 2019-2020 school year, your per student amount was $8,340 per student. And I just checked this morning, and it looks like that is also the same amount for 2020-2021 school year. So that remains the same going into next school year. On the next slide, we're looking at the general fund financial data compared to other Michigan school districts. Now, this information is obtained from the Michigan Department of Ed Bulletin 1011. And the one thing that's important to note about this is that this is information obtained from the 2018-2019 bulletin. And we're comparing it to East China's 2019-2020 data. Now, in my opinion, the most important information that can be gleaned from this slide is you look at the bottom where we look at total fund balance as a percentage of total expenditures. So you can see the district finished the year at about 10.82% for the year ended 2019-2020. Now, if you look at the two columns to the right, you can see that the average of all districts throughout the state of Michigan was actually 14.82%. And then further to the right of that, you can see districts of similar size to East China, which would be school districts with a student population between 3,500 and 3,999 students. The average was 13.2%. So even though you did exceed the 10% threshold, which is what I know the district uses internally as a gauge, it was less than the average of all districts throughout the state and districts of similar size to East China schools. Moving on to the next slide. The next fund I want to talk about briefly is the debt service fund. Now, this fund collects property taxes for repayment of bonds throughout the district. Here we're looking at the balance sheet for the debt service fund. You can see the debt service fund finished the year with about $559,000 of total assets on hand. It finished the year with an ending fund balance of about $558,000. You can see at the bottom, the district had about $80,030,000 of total bonds outstanding at the end of June 30, 2020. That's made up of four bonds. You have one bond in the amount of $1,910,000, which matures in 2021. So that's coming up to expire shortly. You have another bond in the amount of $1,650,000, which matures in 2022. You have a third bond in the amount of $850,000, which matures in 2025. And then the fourth bond is in the amount of $75,620,000, which is the one that just passed this recent year, and that matures in 2048. That's for the school building and site bonds, school improvement bonds. Now on the next slide, this is the income statement for the debt fund. You can see it generated about $3,220,000 of revenues during the year. It spent about $3,381,000. Those are for bond payments and interest costs associated with the bonds. You used up about $161,000 of fund balance and finished the year with an ending fund balance of about $558,000. Now, my final slide, this is the income statement for the sinking fund. or excuse me, I have 2 slides left. The last fund I want to talk about is the sinking fund. Now, the sinking fund also derives its revenues from property taxes. And the thing that's important to note about the sinking fund, which is similar to the debt service fund, is that the resources in these 2 funds are restricted. In other words, they can't be used for general operations. You can't transfer sinking funds or debt service funds over to the general fund. Now, the sinking fund derives revenues from property taxes, and the funds have to be used for the construction of school buildings or major improvements of school buildings and some limited technology improvements. I believe the tech improvements are limited to wiring. Here we're looking at the balance sheet. You can see the sinking fund finished the year with a total assets of about $901,000. It had about $15,000 of liabilities against those assets and finished the year with an ending fund balance of about $886,000. Now, in my final slide, this is the income statement for the sinking fund. You can see it generated about $741,000 during the year. It spent about $312,000 for school building improvements, and actually had an increase to its fund balance level about $429,000 to end the year with an ending fund balance of about $886,000. Now, that's all I have for my slides. I do want to briefly talk about the audit process because it was unique this year because of the pandemic. I want to commend Tina and the entire business office for providing us with information timely, giving us everything that we needed, being very flexible with the schedule, and then of course the most important thing is making sure everything is timely in keeping with the audit timeline that we normally have. And I am proud to say that we were able to submit the audit to the Michigan Department of Education with plenty of time to spare. So again, I want to thank Tina and her entire team for working with us and the courtesy that they extended to us throughout the course of our audit.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. McBride? All right, well, thank you so much for presenting that to us this evening.
Thank you for your time, school board.
Thank you. And thanks, Tina, for your hard work on this as well in your department. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is our action item tonight, which pertains to the audit. The Board of Education accepts the audit report for fiscal year 2019 to 20 as prepared and presented this evening by McBride, Manley and Company, PC. A motion is needed.
So moved.
Support.
Any other comments or questions? No? Okay, so all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, so that motion carries. And our next item this evening is just what's going to be on next month's meeting, which is going to be our summer tax resolution. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone again for your presentations this evening and to the board. And I guess we're adjourned. Have a good night.